Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub. This is a little bit of a weekend recap, a little bit of a weekend preview all at once. We have our good friend Nate. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, Clay. Always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us. Michigan State coming off of a huge sweep of Notre Dame. Friday night they won 3-0, then pulled out that 3-2 victory. Friday night goal scorers: Jagger Joshua, Eric Middendorf, Nicholas Mueller. Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, goal scorers: Carson Dorward, Nicholas Mueller again, and David Gucciardi. Big time win, big time sweep at home. Nate, what were your takeaways from this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have been a better time to earn 6 points with, the way the standings are just kind of a log jam in the middle. But yeah, I thought they were pretty impressive. I think especially Friday night, you look at the penalty kill was just absolutely outstanding. They take an early major, they're able to kill that off, and then you look at the power play. They scored one on Friday. They scored two on the power play Saturday. So I think really the special teams were the biggest factor for the Spartans. And then St. Cyr and net was as outstanding as he's been all season.
Yeah, Dylan St. Cyr earning first star of the week after posting 65 saves on the weekend, including a shutout. And one thing I was thinking about was Dylan St. Cyr showed just the veteran presence that it takes that has carried this team this far, right? Dylan St. Cyr comes in playing against a team that he used to play for. Keep in mind, this is a weekend after they went up against Minnesota and got absolutely demolished. A game on Friday night against Minnesota where he gave up 5 goals and was pulled. Saturday night gave up 6 goals. Doesn't matter. He had his head on straight, was able to bounce back. To me, that's huge because that's the type of weekend, the Minnesota weekend, where you could really lose confidence and kind of think, oh man, it's few games left, like we could be slipping. But Dylan St. Cyr showing that he's just a true professional at this point.
Yeah, and the Friday game against Minnesota was tough, but I thought Saturday they're actually a lot better. And I think Minnesota's one of those teams where it feels like you could lose some confidence, but at the same time, it's Minnesota's Minnesota, and even in that Saturday game, St. Cyr made a few saves, especially that one on Nyes where he fully extends and robs him. Yeah. I mean, I think in his eyes, he's probably taking maybe those moments and bringing those with him, and maybe leaving the rest behind. But yeah, he's been outstanding, and Michigan State's obviously not where they are without him, but. Yeah, just another great showing, and afterwards he was really appreciative of the fans, and then being able to do that, like you said, against his former team, he knows probably more than half the guys he played with when he was there, so who are still on the roster there at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and they had the senior night type festivities, whatever you call it, and it seems like the past decade or so on senior night, it's a lot of players that you think, okay, yeah, like it's different than other sports in my opinion. Maybe similar in basketball where you watch so many games. Some of these players play 120 plus games, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of get a connection to them, and you're going to miss them. It's not like football where you may not play freshman year. They play 40 total games in their career or something. Like a lot of times in the past, it seems like, yeah, I'm going to miss some of these players, but they did really leave a lasting legacy. And this senior class made up of players who are stuck around, players who came back with their COVID eligibility, players who had entered the transfer, bounced back, grad transfer, all these people, they do have a lasting legacy. It's a little bit different because they are part of this program the first year under Adam Nightingale that's really started to bring some life back to it. And I think that they're going to be remembered even in a brighter light than some senior classes of the past.
Yeah, I think for sure. And you could ask any one of them and they'll all say the same thing, that they want to be remembered as the ones who laid the foundation for, what this program is going to be down the line. It's first year with Adam Nightingale, first year with, a fully renovated building. And, Yeah, like you said, some of those guys stuck through some pretty tough times. I mean, you look at a guy like Jagger Joshua, who was used as a third line grinder, penalty killer, not much offense, and now he's leading the team in goals, and he's kind of rediscovered himself, and maybe even giving himself a real shot at a professional career. So yeah, I think those guys, obviously you have some superstar guys like a Hirose or Kodorenko who, you'll remember fondly. But yeah, I think this whole class, I think they'll be remembered a little bit more fondly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I didn't tell you that I was gonna ask this beforehand, but is it confirmed that all of those players will be gone? I assume that, but I assumed do any of them have an extra year of eligibility? Now, they went through the process of the senior night, so I'm assuming that they are gone. But is it even possible that any could return?
Yeah, there's only two who have eligibility. That would be Joshua and Nico Mueller. Those are the only two guys. All the other guys, the Kriegers came back.
Yep.
All the guys who transferred in are graduate transfers, who are seniors. And then Eric Middendorf was in the USHL the year that that COVID happened, so he wasn't in the NCAA, so he doesn't technically get that extra year that he could use. So, but they've both said, we'll see after the season when they're focused on playing right now, and if an opportunity comes, maybe. But those are the only two guys who have a potential to come back, though.
Awesome. Well, huge weekend, and that big weekend sweep prepares this weekend, right? That says we have a lot to play for still. Losing, if Michigan State were to have got swept last weekend, it would have been a little bit different heading into the big rivalry week against Michigan. Michigan right now stands at 18-9 and 10-8 in the conference. Power play is at 24.6%. That's pretty damn good. Penalty kill at 78%. Big picture here. Michigan's playing well. The last time Michigan State played Michigan, they did not have Adam Fantilli, who's projected to go number 2 overall in the draft, on their team. Well, he was on the team. He wasn't playing in those games, the freshman. Fantilli, how big of a difference maker is he? We're talking about a guy with 45 points, 17 goals, 28 assists in 24 games. Do you see that being a huge difference compared to how it played out last time they played each other?
Yeah, I mean, I would think both games this weekend, they're obviously going to be hard fought, and they'll probably be pretty close. But yeah, he's going to make a huge difference. I think it'll be interesting to see. They got him back playing. The best hockey he's played all season. Last weekend they got Mackie Samoskevich back too, which is huge. He's got a heck of a shot, and
third on the team in points.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not, I think more so if Michigan will have Seamus Casey and Jacob Truscott back to really shore up that defensive unit for them. But yeah, Adam Fantilli he's a superstar. I mean, Eric Middendorf played with him in Chicago, played with both him and his brother in Chicago. I mean, you're talking about a kid who is 16 years old, and he was the MVP of the USHL playoffs. I mean, most 16-year-olds aren't even playing in the USHL yet. So, he's a superstar, and I'm sure he's eager to make an imprint here in this rivalry, especially considering he's probably not coming back, for next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to come back. Like I said, projected to go number 2 behind Connor Bedard, who is like an unreal prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much any recent draft, if it did not have Connor Bedard, Fantilli would have gone, maybe number 1, top 2 for sure in the other drafts as well. Like, this is a really damn good player. Michigan overall has been, I feel like, in the beginning of the year, we talked about this some when I had Connor on last time. They had injuries, they had illnesses going around, they had players playing in World Juniors. They did not have a full roster, and they did not have a roster that had been able to play together long enough to really gel. They've started to play better hockey, and they're looking like a team that's getting closer to maybe what their ceiling could be. the one thing holding them back in my mind from reaching that ceiling is their goaltending. Can you just kind of give us a quick update on the goaltending? Eric Portillo has not been great. He was much better um, last year. Now he's given up 3.08 goals per game and a 908 save percentage. What have you seen from Portillo this year?
Yeah, he's had a little bit of a shaky season. I think part of it is like you said, I mean, there's a point where they were dressing their third string goaltender as a forward. They didn't have anybody, healthy. And, when you keep mixing lineups like that and stuff, and I do think, they obviously have Luke Hughes, but I think defensively they're maybe a little worse. They're a team that takes a lot of penalties. So, a lot of power play chances for opponents. So, he's struggled a little bit. I still think he's a very good goaltender. He's still, he's going to be hard to beat. But, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's been up with him this year. But, you can look back at the Michigan State series where, Cole Krieger's shot just kind of throws it at the net. Looks like he has it in his glove and just couldn't secure it, and it trickles in. I think some of those things have happened to him more often this year than in the past. But bottom line, I think he's still a really good goaltender.
Yeah, he's a talented player for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal that you were talking about, he's had a couple of those this year where
Got a
you just
few, yeah.
know that he wants them back. Um, Throughout this lineup, though, I mean, there's just so much talent. You even have a guy like a you know Dylan Duke, who's been great this year as well, on a
Fantastic.
three game point streak as well, and goals in the past 3 games is how I should say that, I guess. And he's just a player that Michigan State's really going to have to stay on top of to be able to win this weekend.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Jagger Joshua. He's not as big, but he's just that net front presence, and he's got an active stick, and he's ready to bang home rebounds and get in the goalie's way. And yeah, he's had a really good season, but up and down the lineup, man. I mean, Michigan go toe to toe with anybody in terms of just pure talent. I mean, we mentioned Fantilli, Samoskevich. I mean, those other freshmen, McGroarty's great. Gavin Brindley's been on a tear here the last few games. And even some of the older guys like Ciccolini had 2 goals, I think, in Friday's game. So they can produce up and down the lineup. And then, when you have a guy like Luke Hughes who can, just smooth operator, man, and he's just so skilled. So
Was
to
it?
have
Yeah,
that
2 games ago, Luke Hughes had 4 goals.
yeah,
Followed
against
that up
Penn
with
State 4, yeah.
a 2 assist game as well. The game after. I mean, that's a super super talented
Mm-hmm.
player, and we all know that last name from Michigan as well. It always seems like, I don't know why, it just seems like they always have a Hughes on the roster, right? They've had
Yeah, it's like
so
Notre Dame with Slaggert. There's always
yep,
a Slaggert, and they got another one coming next year too. So
yeah, just get used to it, everybody. So as we look into this weekend, it's a 2 game set with, I believe it said I'm pulling this up to check. Yeah, Friday night at 7 p.m. is a Go Green Wear White game according to Michigan State's website. So I guess wear white, right? That's at MUN. And Saturday's game, 8 p.m. in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena. Nate, do you remember what happened last year when they played at Little Caesars Arena at the end of the season?
yeah, I was just talking about this game with a few coworkers, but yeah, the thing that I remember especially, I think Michigan got up, I want to say 3-0, and then I believe it was a stop. I took a major, and then 7 seconds into the major, Michigan scored shorthanded.
Yep.
And then Nienhaus got two on the power play there, and I don't know if they got another shorthanded one too, maybe. But yeah, Detroit's not been too kind to Michigan State in the duel of the D here in the last few years. I mean, obviously the talent gap, in the last couple seasons, but yeah, it seems that the Michigan guys really get up for that game, and we'll see if Nightingale can get the guys a little more fired up than they have been in the past.
So I was at the game last year in Detroit, and it was about as ridiculous as a game in many senses as I could imagine. But as you said, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's the point I was going to make next, is this dual in the D thing and playing in Detroit is a lot of a pride. It's pride for a lot of these players from Michigan.
Sure.
Both teams obviously representing in Michigan as well. It means a lot. And being able to play in Little Caesars is a really unique opportunity. I'm really glad that they do this each year now. And it's kind of near the end of the year. And this year, it has bigger implications. This should be a humongous series. Obviously, Michigan State always is, right? But they got a little bit of something added to it. And as you mentioned, Adam Nightingale is going to have to make sure that these players get up for it. Now, with Michigan back to a more full strength roster than the last time we saw them, Michigan State pretty much full strength. Jesse Tucker's kind of been out of the lineup, who was in the lineup the last time they played. We've seen Gavin Best kind of bouncing in and out of the lineup. But, at this point in the season, I'm saying that they're pretty much full strength because it's pretty long to not have many injuries. But let's look at what you think will happen. Can we get a prediction for this weekend for the games?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Saturday being a real point of pride, but Friday's the game that Michigan State desperately needs. They need it. They have them at home.
That's a great point.
They're 11-4-1 at home, I believe. And, outside of Minnesota, Michigan State has a chance to sweep the entire rest of the Big Ten at home this season, outside the 2 games against Minnesota. So, that could be a little, maybe something to get them going. But, I mean, the way that the crowd's been, especially these, the Penn State series where they're down in each game and they're able to come back, force overtime, and then get the extra point in both those scenarios. And then obviously, this Notre Dame, a big shutout, and then, to get a lead 3-2 and then just really just shut the door for the last 15 minutes. I mean, and they need the crowd to fuel them. And I think if they're going to take any points from this series, it's got to be from Friday. So I'll go Friday. I don't necessarily know if they'll win, but if they can at least get a point, I think getting a point in this series could be huge going forward, especially just looking at the other team schedules and who they have to close out. So, I'll go either an overtime win or overtime loss Friday. The game goes to extra time, and then I'll take Michigan in Detroit.
All right. Well, I have been doing these predictions in this show now for, over a season worth of shows. And last week was the first time I correctly predicted both games. That shows you how bad I am at this. But predicted the sweep last week, and let's see if I can keep the energy rolling. I'm going to go with a win outright. Don't need any OT or anything. Win Friday night. I think they're going to ride the momentum. The crowd has been absolutely phenomenal. Sellouts and shout out to the Munsters. The student section has been unreal this year, even in the beginning of the year when interest was still somewhat low. Shout out to the fans for showing up all season long. Let's pack it one more time. Friday night, ride the energy and get the win. I'll even go with a Jeremy Davidson goal prediction. Feels right. Saturday, I think it's going to be tough. I mean, I think it's impossible. Not impossible. Damn near impossible to sweep Michigan. I just don't see that happening. They're so talented. But as we always know, we say in every other sport, when a rivalry comes up, you don't really know. Crazy shit happens. So I'm going to go with a loss on Saturday, but a huge, huge, huge win on Friday night, which would lead us in to the final weekend against Wisconsin, which is another big opportunity to close out the season, head into the Big Ten tournament, and potentially win their first ever Big Ten tournament series. But before we get into all of that, we've got to talk about the Big Ten.
Let's start with a game before series.
Yeah, exactly. So like a few of my friends don't watch college hockey, and they were like, "Oh, is Michigan State good?" And I was like, historically, yeah, but they've never won a Big Ten tournament game. And it's a series, too. I know that it hasn't always been a series, but regardless, let's go ahead and talk about the Big Ten standings. Right now, let me see if this is the third straight week I've shared my screen, and you think I would be really good at it by now. I'm not. So is it working?
Yeah, I can see it.
Man, that's tiny, isn't it? Okay. Well, either way, sorry for those of you on Spotify, but I'm going to roll through the Big Ten standings quickly. First place, Minnesota. My gosh, 43 points. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. Sorry, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State all have 30 points. Now, keep in mind, Michigan has only played 18 games. Ohio State's played 18 games. Penn State and Michigan State have played 20 games. Then Notre Dame with 26 points in Wisconsin. 9 points. Wisconsin, man. What the hell are they doing? All right, Nate. Crazy Big Ten standings. What do you think is going to happen? Just educate the people on what is happening, the scenarios. Just go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, what I kind of alluded to in my prediction there, if Michigan State's able to muster a point here against Michigan, that could be really, really big because you look at Penn State, who they have left. They have Minnesota at home, and they have Wisconsin at home. If you wanted to just assume Minnesota wins both and then Penn State's able to win both against Wisconsin, that gives them 6 points, and that puts them to 36. Michigan State also has Wisconsin. If Michigan State able to sweep Wisconsin and all they need is 1 point against Michigan, then they would have 37. They'd probably move up into that fourth spot, assuming Ohio State and Michigan with the extra 2 games, they're able to do something, although Ohio State has a tough schedule to end. But, then you're looking at fourth place and you're looking at hosting a Big Ten tournament. So I think that's really what to watch is I think if you're a Michigan State fan, you're rooting for Minnesota to just win out.
Yeah.
Because Minnesota also plays Ohio State. And then, Michigan and Ohio State play each other. That's next week. I don't think Notre Dame has a realistic shot at jumping into the top 4. They'll have Ohio State at home, and they have to go at Michigan to close the season. So that's a tough task for them, and when they're already 4 points back of the rest of that pack. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how things close out here. But I think Michigan State 7 points in the next 4 games would probably be enough. Assuming Minnesota keeps things rolling and is able to go into Pagula and sweep Penn State. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think if Michigan State's able to win one against Michigan, then you go into the Wisconsin series thinking, hoping for no letdowns, but it is still on the road, and Wisconsin's going to be playing for some pride. So I'm sure I think that's senior night, one of those games for Wisconsin. So yeah, it'll be right down to the wire, and so Michigan State fans should be rooting for Minnesota this coming week when they play Penn State, and then rooting for Wisconsin the last week of the series when they play Penn State too. So.
Absolutely. And what I have up on the screen here is a tweet from Sam Scalar, and it gives percentages. I don't remember the exact website. I'll put a link to it, but it gives percentages next to the numbers here. And it has Michigan State with the highest percentage of finishing fifth at 36%, but just below that, 29% of finishing fourth place. Nate, can you tell us the implications, the big implications of finishing fourth compared to fifth?
Absolutely. You host a Big Ten tournament series. I mean, if Michigan State's able to slide into 4, presumably Penn State would stay at 5. Would you rather play Penn State at Munn, or would you rather play Penn State at Pagula? So, I know Michigan State, they did have some pretty good success at Pagula earlier in the year, but I mean, you're always would be hopeful to host, if you have the opportunity, and they've put themselves with this is the past weekend's results. They've really put themselves in a position to do that. And, I think you look at those predictions where
Well, it looks like we lost Nate there. We'll see if he is able to join back. I'll keep an eye out on that. But I think what he was touching on is just more of those percentages and what opportunities Michigan State has in front of them right now. And, we talked about how they just can't, or they have not won a Big Ten tournament game. It's sad. It's inexcusable. We go from that to potentially seeing them host a Big Ten tournament series in 1 year. Incredible feat. Something that they should be very proud of if they can pull it off. With so much ahead and so much opportunity in front of them, they're going to have everything in the world to play for, something we've not seen in the past. Expect a big weekend this week, Friday, Saturday, against Michigan. Everyone tune in. Tell your friends. Share it with people. Say, hey, let's watch the game this weekend. You got Super Bowl on Sunday. Why not make the whole weekend great by having Friday night Michigan State, Saturday night Michigan State, Sunday night Super Bowl? Nate, you're back. I had a filibuster
Sorry,
moment there.
yeah,
I did not know what I was talking about. We'll let you continue on.
yeah. So, again, if you can get that 4th spot and host a Big Ten tournament series, that'd be monumental for the program going forward. And I think just if you're a Michigan State fan, root for Penn State to lose and hope Michigan State's able to do something this weekend against Michigan and then take care of business against Wisconsin.
I put out on Twitter this week asking people, have you all, I'm just trying to crowdsource some information here. Pretty much, are you following the Michigan State hockey program more than the past? Kind of a generic, tell me your Michigan State hockey story. All but one response was awesome. The stories people were telling about how much more involved they are, how much more they're following the program, they're watching now. Some people said, I'd never watched a game, and now I'm watching every one. And I just think that speaks volumes. I just want to say how awesome it is. The players, the coaches, and what they've been able to build in such a short amount of time. The fact that we can be sitting here today talking about playing for something. I know I keep repeating it every week, but I just think it's so great how far this team has come. Have you noticed an uptick in people reading your articles, sharing your articles, talking about hockey just around the Lansing area?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more fun sharing stuff with people when the team you're rooting for is winning compared to losing. But I think obviously there's just more of a buzz, and I think where you really feel it is if you talk to the players, man, they're super super appreciative, and especially when you look at guys like Jagger Joshua, like the Krieger twins, like Nico Mueller. Think about their past experience where their freshman year they're okay, and the team was okay. They ended up finishing 7th, but they were competitive. And then the next year you got COVID and you're playing in an empty arena. Then you look at last year, back half of the year, your team loses 14 straight. Their Mun's had half capacity, if that. I mean, the student section's not full. The rest of the seats are pretty sparsely seated. And now you get to this year, and I mean, it's just full. It's full, and you have people showing up super early to look, check out new renovations and everything like that. I mean, the draws, the product on the ice is a lot more appealing, but then with everything else, just the renovations, you got a new staff, you start out pretty good on the year, and going for they were able to keep the product on the ice really competitive, and that speaks to their home record. I mean, 11-4-1. 2 of those losses came in the non-conference. The other 2 came against Minnesota. So
yeah,
you're able to beat really good teams at home, and again, just speaks to how important hosting a Big Ten tournament series would be.
absolutely. And it's funny. I am in my entire time of following Michigan State hockey, which has been probably since 2010, like really watching and living in Kentucky, it's been difficult. It was really Big Ten student, as it was called then, that kind of helped me do it. But I've never had an issue getting a ticket. Well, I did a giveaway back in the fall because I wanted to send 2 people to a Michigan State hockey game because I was trying to say, like, I want more people to see this. I want people to see the buzz. And the person who won was going to come in February. That's what they said. And it all sold out. I cannot send these people to the game because it sold out. I felt terrible. I'm going to honor it next season. I don't want people to think I shorted them, but I contacted the ticket office and they could not do it. And Dan, who you all may know from Twitter, works at the ticket office, fantastic guy, couldn't even pull any strings. That's how popular it's getting. It's getting back to that, which we love to see. Nate, thank you so much for joining us this week. We will do a weekend recap this week. I'm not going to ditch it and go fishing like I did this past weekend, but tell the people where they can find your work and where they can find you on Twitter.
Absolutely, lsj.com. All my stuff's there. And then Twitter, it's Nathaniel_Bott. Anything you need covering hockey, covering Lansing preps, I got you. It's all there. I got you covered.
Yeah, if you like following like just any sport that could potentially happen in the area, follow Nate because you don't know if he's going to be tweeting a Krieger goal or if he's going to be tweeting the game-winning layup from some random high school sporting event. And that's why we love Nate. The guy doesn't stop grinding. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week, and go green.